Lakeland Public Television's Common Ground is brought to you by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund.
There are two vinegaries that we know of in the eastern part of the country, one in Maryland and one in Virginia. They both buy wine and convert it to vinegar. Out in California, there's a balsamic vinegar place, but other than that, we don't know of any vinegaries. So we are unique. We have apples, plums, cherries, grapes, and rhubarb that we grow ourselves and use in making the wine and vinegar. Some years we have good crops of plums and other years not so much, but because we have such a range in kinds of fruit, we always have something, it seems, that we can use in making wine. So he experiments with all kinds of fruits. We're not truly organic in that we use purchased fruits from time to time, but we use as little spray herbicides or pesticides as we can. And we really encourage the bees to do their work here, and we don't want sprays for the bees either. The trees here all need to be pruned regularly, and the grapevines need to be pruned. And the theory is that if you prune more heavily, you get perhaps less fruit, but it's larger. But we know people who do no pruning at all and get wonderful fruit. With the apple trees, it's a matter of trying to keep the branches open a little bit so more air can circulate, and you get better fruit that way.
The reason I got started in making vinegar, I was experimenting with taking vinegar for my health. What I found from the white vinegar you buy in the store, it has good uses, but not for eating. So I said there had to be something more. You read about 1800s and things, people having vinegar barrels and prized making their own vinegar. Vinegar has many reported claims, and I have to be very careful because many of them aren't proven. And a lot of people take vinegar. There are cases of people being quite elderly that have taken vinegar throughout their lives every day and claim it's helped them. I have been helped with cherry vinegar. I had knees and hip problems 2 years ago. And having seen the doctor, I didn't have bone-on-bone problems. It was just inflammation. And I take a tablespoon of vinegar a day, and I've continued that, and it has helped. Some of the other reported uses, gout, some people seem to have had results in, and arthritis as well. I think it is good in some respects as a dietary help because you can eat more greens, they taste better. And of course, when you're going to eat that kind of vegetables and things, you chew more, and so you get full with less. The flavors all come from the fruit. The wine is made to a dry, so there's very little sugar left in the liquids, and that comes back as a very low-calorie addition to your salad. I started experimenting first with wine. You have to have an alcohol base to make vinegar, the acetic acid. The bacteria that makes it needs alcohol, and it's just a natural process. All our vinegars start as a fruit, and then I make the wine to get the alcohol. And then I put bacteria into the wine to cause the change into acetic acid. And it's actually a living organism that changes the alcohol into acetic acid. We leave it open to the air. We need oxygen to fuel it. And I have all these vats sitting up here. They're covered to prevent contamination by bugs or other things that are here. And then it's just the natural life cycle of the bacteria itself. It'll grow in a colony when it's working. That's called mother. It forms on the top. It's quite gelatinous, almost like liver. It has a body to it. The vinegars then are all a product of the wine. The flavors that come through are all the flavor from the fruit that started it. So we'll have various vinegars. We have things like apple, apricot, cherry, blackcurrant, rhubarb, plum. All the batches are small batches. So we'll run through a batch, we're out for a period of time of that kind, and then we go on from there. Vinegars take anywhere up to 8 months to complete. The wine, when I make it, takes up to 2 to 3 months, So from the time it was a fruit, it can be almost a year before the vinegar is ready for use. Some of our vinegars we will steep with herbs and give us our herbal vinegars. Those I mix according to my taste and according to the taste that other people like as well. The herbs that we use to make our herbal varieties, about 90% of them we grow in our own garden here. And Nan does take care and raise the herbs that we use for that.
I've grown 25 to 30 different kinds of herbs over the years and tried a lot of different things like milk thistle and boneset and horehound and some pretty strange sorts of herbs. But at this point I kind of like the ones that come back every year for the most part. I like the perennials, the ones that are dependable, because others are hard to find, if they're more unusual. Herbs are really notorious for moving around wherever they want to go. So each spring it's a job to kind of weed out the ones that are not where they're supposed to be and get things back where they belong. To use the herbs in vinegar, we gather them in the morning if we can, because the volatile oils are most concentrated in the morning. So it's good to gather them before the sun's had a chance to burn that off. Gather them up, wash them, and chop them up and put them directly in the vinegar. And it's allowed to infuse for about 2 weeks, and the flavor from the herb goes directly into the vinegar and makes just the wonderful flavor of the herb.
Many of the vinegars are used in marinades, meats. We also marinate vegetables when we stir fry, especially. A little bit of that acid flavor enhances your foods, the natural flavors of the foods, but also it excites your palate. And by then the food that you're tasting, it actually brings out those flavors. We do have a few kinds of peppers. You can get some of that hot flavor without, chewing on the habanero and, having your eyes water and everything, and yet you can have that flavor. The biggest things are cleanliness. You want the fruit clean, you want your vessels clean, you want your utensils very clean. If you don't have that, you'll get contaminants in that will alter or ruin a batch of wine. I want good wine. I don't want a wine that's going to, bad flavors or anything. Now, those flavors come through all the way to the end. After it's ready to make vinegar, then we take the wine, mix it with vinegar and the mother, and set it up. When I set up the vinegar to get started, I'll take the existing vinegar here and harvest it. This would then be poured into another drum. Now this is relatively new. You can see a thin layer of mother on top. This one has a long ways to go yet. The mother continues to grow and can get inch, maybe even 1.5 inches, 2 inches thick by the time this is done. That layer and some of the completed vinegar will be saved and mixed with the wine in this pail to start the next batch. So it's simply a matter of controlling the quantities that we put together. That way the vinegar gets a good start, the bacteria has a good start in producing the acetic acid out of the alcohol, and we prevent other things like molds and other things that are present in the air and could contaminate this. So we just want to give it a good start. When I started making wine, I read a whole lot on it. Until that time, Nan had been the one that actually made the wine in our family. And so the first time I decided to make a wine, I promptly ruined a 5-gallon batch. It was a lesson on how not to, but from there, have worked well beyond that. My favorite vinegar, I would probably say, is the dill in apple, if I'm going to use it as a dip for any kind of salty food or greasy food or on fish. Beyond that, I take cherry daily, and probably would recommend either the basil or rosemary and French tarragon for salads. There are many of them, but those are the ones that I like on salads. People can take these vinegars directly from the bottle. The flavors are full flavors, and they don't have to add sugar and honey and things that many people have added to white vinegar to make it palatable. You're getting a natural product.
If you enjoyed this segment of Lakeland Public Television's Common Ground, consider making a contribution at lptv.org.